Hey, this is Brian Johnson, former Major League catcher, and you're listening to Jim on Base.
The Jim on Base show has teamed up with my new friends at Old Hillside Bourbon Company. I got two of my favorite bottles here, straight bourbon whiskey and the straight rye whiskey. So whenever you want to get on base with that authentic Kentucky bourbon taste, make sure you visit oldhillsidebourboncompany.com, their social media, Old Hillside CO, or pick up a bottle at Bevmo and Total Wine. Old Hillside Bourbon Company. They'll always get you on base. Welcome back to another episode of the Jim on Base show. For today's very special guest, we have on someone who hails from Oakland, California. He attended Stanford University and went on to become a catcher in Major League Baseball. He later became an MLB scout as well. Please welcome the great Brian Johnson. Brian, thanks for coming on.
I'm sorry I can't hear you from the standing ovation that I got from your introduction. It's really loud and raucous out there. But no, I think thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited. Glad we can make this happen. And I was curious, are you in the Detroit area still, or where are you at right now?
Yeah, so let's see. We lived in Detroit proper, in the city of Detroit, for 18 years.
Wow.
And then the last 4 or 5 years, we moved out to the burbs, the big bad suburbs. We moved out here about 10, 15 minutes west of Detroit in a city called Southfield, Michigan. So, yeah, we're still in Michigan, not far from Detroit. And just off a great weekend in Detroit here with the NFL draft, and 750,000 people came in here for the weekend and saw a brand new Detroit. Detroit is not what you thought it was. What people, we've had a lot of bad days in Detroit, and it's kind of been deteriorating as a city for the last 30 years after all the manufacturing left and all kind of challenges within the city. But we go to bankruptcy, and that cleared the books for us to start over. And over the last 10 years, this place has just erupted. So Detroit is a beautiful place again, which is fun to say.
Yeah, that's good to see. And like you said, it was fun to see the crowds there at the draft. So hopefully, like you said, good times are upon, getting better as the years go by.
Yeah, it takes a while to get rid of a bad reputation, though, unfortunately. So things like that help. The football team doing well helps. There's so much more life to the city, and buildings are full, new buildings are going up, and so it's really fun. I mean, it's incredible. We got 3 full-scale casinos within the city, 3 sports, right? My brothers and sisters from Oakland will appreciate that. We have the Red Wings here, the Detroit Pistons, and the Detroit Lions. Oh, I'm sorry, 4. Detroit Lions, Detroit Pistons, the Red Wings, and the Tigers. So, yeah, how about that?
Yeah, definitely. It sounds great. I know we're a little jealous now.
I know. It breaks my heart. I watch it from afar quite a bit over the last 20 years debacle that is the Oakland A's, unfortunately, and the Raiders too. I mean, I remember the days growing up in Oakland when there wasn't Mount Davis up in center field, where that stadium was. Yeah, it was it wasn't bad with the ice plants and everything. The Oakland County Coliseum was a cool place to watch a game, and then Davis came back, held the city, hostage, and made them pay $100 million to build that monstrosity.
I think they're still paying it off, I think.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think that's why they weren't able to keep either team, is because that was such a bad financial deal for the city that you're right, still paying for. And I'm bitter towards Al Davis, despite all the good years we had with him and all the good things he did with the team. I'm bitter on how he treated the city of Oakland, and therefore all of us that live there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And we'll get into that a lot too. And, one thing that I thought was really cool about you lately is you're part of your own podcast called Talent Chasing, right? So
yeah.
How did that start, and how did you know your co-hosts, Chad and Jasper?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we try to, let me back up a little bit. So on LinkedIn, you get people reaching out to you on LinkedIn and say, hey, I want to give you this or share with you this or be your coach, life coach or whatever. So 4 years ago, I got a really big contract for work through LinkedIn. So I'm like, I have to, for now, for business, I always have to look at LinkedIn because and pay attention and listen to everybody, because you never know. So here was another person reach out to me from Amsterdam, and a guy named Jasper Spanjart. And he's like, hey, could I talk to you for a minute? I got a project I'm working on. We think you might be great for it. And so apparently they went looking through LinkedIn for someone with a sports background and a business background because they wanted to build a podcast with the three people and about sports and kind of blending sports and business together.
Wow.
So the third partner that I have, or the second partner I have that make us the trio, is a guy named Chad Sowash, who spends 6 months in Portugal and 6 months in Indianapolis every year. He's got a military background, HR background, leadership development background, both in the military and in corporate America. Jasper is a movie maker, is a writer. And so the three of us kind of combined together to make a show about people. Instead of what they do, it's who they are as people. So a lot of great sports people, business people, and writers and journalists and kind of a mixture. And it's an hour show. So we get into it. We find out about, how they tick and how they see things. And it's really been fun. We've only had 3 episodes and we come out with a new episode every Wednesday. So we're just starting up still. We did 3 episodes as introductory episodes early. The first one was on me. The second one was on Jasper, and the third one was on Jad as an introduction to the show by introducing us. And now we're getting into our actual talent. So I think this week we're releasing one tomorrow as you and I speak here on Jeff Pearlman,
Nice.
four-time New York Times bestseller, probably the best sports biographer we have in our generation. So anyway, he was a great interview.
Yeah, he's a friend of the show, so
Oh, there you go.
yeah, so that's
Yeah.
cool. And like you said, you kicked it off, and I loved listening to your episode because, like you said, it's kind of like my show in a way where I like to talk about what you're known for, but also who you are as a person. So I was
Yeah.
excited to hear a local guy talk about Oakland and being from the Bay. So
Yeah,
I'll put a,
absolutely.
yeah, I'll put a link in the bio for everyone to check that out too.
Cool.
And
Appreciate that.
yeah, and I know you're a dad too, right? So how many kids do you have, and what are they up to?
Yeah, appreciate that. My kids are both in college, so send donations right away. I got the website down here on the bottom of the screen. So my daughter just graduated. Actually, my son is probably going to graduate next year. My daughter is hoping to go into medical school. Before that, she wants to kind of do a gap year, so she's going to jump into the and be an EMT. Right,
Oh,
right,
cool, yeah.
right down your alley, and she wants to do that first, and kind of a resume decoration, and also learning and having fun. She wants to get into emergency medicine and work in the emergency room. So she figures that would be a good program to do that. And then my son is playing baseball at a D2 in Georgia, and thinking about maybe going to transfer portal, maybe not, kind of getting into that piece, which is a scary endeavor.
Yeah.
But he's enjoying it. He's got another year of eligibility, so he's kind of a utility player, primarily a shortstop, but can play any position on the field. Hates catching, so doesn't want to catch your pitch, but he can play everywhere else. He runs like a gazelle, which I didn't because I married someone who could run, so he has better. So my kids run better than I did. And but they're both doing good. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, that's great. And we'll get into the EMT stuff too a little later on because I know that you took an EMT class a few years back, so that'll be fun to talk about. And your wife, how did you meet and how long have you been married?
Yeah, let's see, we met first day of college. We both went to Stanford. Her roommate and my roommate were friends. They came over to hang out first. I had already been there for about a week because of football, or a couple weeks because of football. So I was just kind of getting to know my roommate, a guy named Rodney Haynes, was an engineering student there. So he was friends with her roommate that lived across the street. And so they all came over, and we spent about 2.5 hours together, just hanging out, not doing anything, in our dorm room in Branner Hall, the freshman dorm room. Right down the hall was Andrew Yang that started Yahoo. So it was kind of a cool third floor.
I saw him at Pebble Beach, I think, the other day. I think he was in.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
It's funny. I ran into him the last time I saw him. I hadn't seen him since Stanford days. I ran into him because I went to the first game with Kevin Durant on the Warriors.
Wow.
And they played the San Antonio Spurs the first night. And I had to hook up at Fox Sports because I was doing some work with them with the Giants games. And so I got to sit on the floor. I turned to my left, and there he is. The Yahoo founder and kingpin.
Wow.
And even though he doesn't have it anymore, I was like, "Hey, man," I said, "I just want to let you know, I'm Brian Johnson. I haven't seen you, since we were in the dorm. I said, but I've been cheering for you from afar for years and hoping you do well. He's like, stop it right there. He's like, I've been cheering for you too.
That's
We had
cool.
a fun time with that. But go back to my wife. So she came over with her friend. We hung out for a couple hours, and she left. She and a friend left, and I told my roommate, I was like, that's the woman I'm going to marry right there. And you can come and sing at the wedding, and we'll do this and this, and it ended up that way. By 8 years later, we finally ended up getting married. But and Rodney did sing in it.
Wow.
But I had to convince her. She wasn't quite convinced as I was. It took a little work.
Yeah, it took 8 years or 8 innings of life, you know.
That's right. That's right. She's a black woman, and being a white dude, I had already dated black women in high school, so that was like no big deal for me. And where we lived out in Oakland, it was like no big deal.
Yeah.
But she had never made that. She had never crossed over to the lighter side yet. So I needed to give her a little more time and a little more grace to kind of figure that out. But she came around over time.
Yeah, you're a one and done, so it's good.
That's right. Yeah, we've been together, 34
Wow.
some odd years now. So, yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, I take it she likes the goatee. It's kind of been a staple of most of your life, right? You're still rocking it.
Yeah, it took a while. She was around when I first cut it off to begin with. That was my rookie year in the big leagues. We were together, and I started getting the power alleys, man. I was like, I don't want to do the comb over and do all that. So I checked with my brothers first. She's a little bitter. I didn't check with her first, but I checked with my brothers first, make sure I'd be cool, because white dudes weren't rocking the bald head back then. And this is 1994. And so they were like, "Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd definitely be cool. So go for it." And then I was like, "Okay, Sarah, are you gonna be all right with it?" And is it okay if I do it? So she was good with it. So we went ahead and cut it. And once I cut it, which oftentimes bald guys will say, is that I wish I had cut it a lot sooner than I did, because I love it. It's easy to take care of, looks better, and all that. And then the goatee kind of balances out the look. So there we go.
Yeah, well, you're kind of intimidating, with that look, and then you got the earring going back in the day.
Yeah, I used to.
Yeah, when did you stop wearing that?
Yeah, you know what? It was weird. Just one day, I just got tired of it. I was like, yeah, I don't want to do the earring anymore. I kind of thought about going back to two, but I was like, I'm too lazy to do it. This one, my son's wearing two, so I'm like,
Okay.
I don't want to. I want him to think I'm trying to be like him, so I'll let him do the earring thing. I'll let that go. But I enjoyed my earring days. And it took a little, it was funny when I first cut my hair. My mom and dad did not like it at all. She was like, "What's wrong? Like, are you in the KKK, or what is going on?" And so it took a little while for everybody to get used to.
Well, can you take credit then for turning Barry Bonds onto the earring look, or?
Yeah, no, I think he had his already, but he was always checking mine out for sure. We Barry and I would, he was East, I was East Bay, he was West Bay. So Barry, if you're ever a teammate of Barry, he'll challenge you right away, kind of where you're from and high school stuff and all that. But East Bay, I beat him down pretty good with all the East Bay heritage we have and all the great players that have come through from the East Bay compared to the West Bay. So I won that argument, and that kind of was good for our relationship all the way through.
Awesome. Well, just in case anyone's confused, we're a few minutes in. You are not the lead singer of AC/DC, right? Just to clarify.
Sometimes, yeah, no, not at all. But yeah, it's there, and I think there's an NFL coach with my name, and our name, I guess. There was a Major League Baseball pitcher with the Red Sox,
Yeah.
like a left-hander. There was also the baseball cards I keep getting are of a guy that was a catcher in the minor leagues during the time that I was playing. I never met him though. I get cards of his every once in a while. I'm sure he gets some of mine and probably throws them in the garbage can. But I return to sender because I'm that kind of guy,
Oh, I guess it's better for you to get his cards than him, like get your paychecks, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. We haven't done that yet. I keep a close eye on those paychecks. That's good.
Well, speaking of AC/DC, I was wondering, what kind of music are you into? Who are some of your favorite bands?
Ooh, I'm an R&B guy. Old school R&B is what I like. I like
Okay.
getting and I sprinkle in there with a little Tupac, a little Heavy D, but I like the old school stuff like Anita Baker, Shirley Murdoch, Luther Vandross.
Ooh, yeah.
But I like Usher, like Ariana Grande, those kind of things. But I like you got to be able to blow it out a little bit for me to listen. Whitney Houston's always great, so I'm good with the old school stuff. I don't mess too much with the younger stuff. But like my kids they listen to a combination of old school and new school. So every once in a while they'll bring some stuff that I'm like, okay, I can listen with that. But when I'm by myself in the car on a road trip somewhere, I got my old school R&B all the way.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to the gym later, so I'll probably get some Luther going when I'm on the treadmill.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a good one.
Well, since you are from Oakland, I want to talk a little bit about that. Who are some of your favorite teams and players growing up? And it doesn't just have to be baseball. I know you're into all sports.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Definitely Raiders guy. Otis Sistrunk, Kenny Stabler,
Nice.
those days, Willie Brown. That was like part of my blood, right? You had to be back then. You had to be either the 49ers or Raiders. You couldn't be both.
Yeah.
And that was when the 49ers stunk, so it was really easy to be a Raiders fan. So that was awesome. The A's were awesome back then. 3 World Series in the early 70s. And then later on, they had cool teams as well. And so definitely A's and A's and Raiders. But went to a lot of Giants games, so enjoyed them. The Oakland Stompers game we used to go to when Crazy George was banging on the drum. When they did their entree into Oakland, we went to Stompers games for sure. I went to a bunch of Laney College games. My best friend, Mark Schmitz, his dad, Dr. Tom Schmitz, was the team doctor for the Warriors for Laney and I think for Merritt College. So we used to go to the Merritt College and Laney College football games and play tackle football up on the grassy knoll at Laney College. I don't think they have that anymore, but they got fences up now. But yeah, I'm a fan of every team in the Bay Area, and I tell people in the Midwest, people don't appreciate it because I live in Michigan now, but people don't appreciate it. I was like, listen, the Golden State Warriors, this 10-year, 12-year run that they've been on, I've been absorbing every second. I get the season ticket every year. I watch every exhibition game. I watch garbage time with the rookies come out. I mean, I watch everything that goes on with the Warriors through that time because I suffered for 30 years before this all came down. So I deserve to bask in the glory of 4 world championships and the Steph Curry era with Draymond and Clay. So I'm all about it. People are like, yeah, the Warriors. Yeah, that's right. The Warriors are what it's all about.
Well, you'd appreciate it then because I have in my closet, I have a stitched Mikal Pietrus jersey.
Oh, what is it?
Stitched, like authentic type jersey of Mikal Pietrus from back in the day, like 2007-ish.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
So as you know, like we have a lot of scars from the years of pain.
Yes.
It wasn't always like this, like you said. So
could we just have Chris Webber and Don Nelson just get along?
Yeah.
Can't we just get along and push through that and work well together? We would have been dominating if he'd have stayed.
Yeah, and instead we got the Chris Webber curse. What was it? 17 years.
Exactly. That was bad.
Well, I also had to ask. I imagine being from Oakland, were you a Fenton's guy for ice cream, or do you go to Zachary's Pizza, anything like that?
Yeah, definitely Fenton's guy. I preferred the Blondie's Pizza over in Berkeley instead.
Blondie's
so used to run through there, yeah, and they're not the same as they used to be, but the Blondie's was great, and then Flint's Barbecue was great. Back in the olden days when over by Bushrod Park.
Okay.
Used to enjoy killing Flint's Barbecue. So yeah, absolutely.
And you went to Skyline High School, and I know the great Tom Hanks went there. Did any other big names go there that other people wouldn't know right away?
Oh, good question. Well, of course, Gary Payton, who's a Hall of Famer now. Greg Foster, who's had a long career in the NBA as a player, but also now as a coach. Let's see.
Some good names right there.
There's been some. Tom Hanks. Yeah, Tom Hanks spoke at our graduation.
Wow.
So that was fun. So I've always been a fan of his, and I love how he shouts out Oakland every chance he gets. So we've had a nice lineup over the years.
Yeah. And your parents, I know your dad was a doctor, right? And your mom was a nurse. So I thought that was pretty interesting because I know you took an EMT course. And then, like you said, your daughter wants to be a doctor and wants to get into that emergency environment. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. My dad was the University of Michigan guy. He went to Cornell for undergrad, went to University of Michigan for graduate school, which is weird. He grew up like 2 miles away from where I live right now, which is
Wow.
weird. And in Birmingham, Michigan. And so, yeah, he was a cardiologist, had his offices downtown and right next to Merritt Hospital, what used to be Merritt Hospital. And was not a surgeon, but he was a cardiologist that didn't do surgery. So a lot of relationships with his patients. My mom was an emergency room nurse. She worked at Highland Hospital, the old Highland Hospital. I think it's torn down. I don't think it's still there. Kind of over by golf links and the zoo over there that way.
The main
cool.
main trauma center, yeah.
Oh, very good. Yeah. So she used to work there. And yeah, she was a golfer, man. She almost turned pro as a golfer as a teenager. But there wasn't any money in it. And so she kind of went on into nursing anyway, but has always been a lifelong golfer. She's 85 right now and plays 4 days a week still. Wow. She don't remember what day it is sometimes, but she knows she can still drive, still got her license, still got her keys, and she can beat any dude around 4 days a week on the golf course and take your money. So yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it was fun when I took the EMT course. When I was scouting with the Giants, I was a major league scout with the Giants, so I did only major league and minor league scouting, so I didn't do any of the amateur stuff. Because a lot of people don't appreciate that distinction. There's the amateur scout and major league scout. They're just a little bit different job. They're both professional scouts, but they're a little bit different job. And so when I was doing that, as you know, with the baseball season, if you go to the World Series, you get 5 months off. If you don't go to the World Series, you get 6 months off. And so that gives you a lot of time to do other stuff. So I've done all kind of different stuff. One year I was like the fix-it guy at an apartment building. Wayne State University is a university here in Detroit, in the city of Detroit, and a friend of mine owned the building. And so he had an opening. I was like, dude, I would love to do that. I said, I want to learn how to do plumbing. I can paint. I can do, work on the walls and fix walls, things like that. So that was fun. Another year I worked for a bodyguard agency. And so they teach people how to protect others. So, and he's a big YouTube sensation. Commander Brown is his name. And he has a company here in Detroit called DUST, Detroit Urban Survival Training. And so he's of the mindset of that, hey, it's so important to protect yourself. You got to train like an athlete in order to do this. That means you got to do stuff every day to protect yourself from others. If it's, taking a knife away, taking a gun away, being aware of different things. So it was amazing. I trained with him for like 5 months every day. Wow. Which was really fun. And so my job was I would escort women to court each day after I got trained up to be able to face their abuser. And then I would escort them back home. Wow. And it was amazing just standing with them in the court setting and all that. It was really satisfying. And also we rescued a drug dealer stole a child from a woman in Arizona who she was originally from Michigan. And so we had about 8 of us in 3 cars and we went because the cops wouldn't do it. So the cops deferred to us because, there was reasons why they couldn't do it. And so we would get a lot of the stuff that the police officers couldn't do. So nothing illegal, but just went in there and took the baby back, which was fun. I sat in the car. I didn't do anything. I was sitting in the car. I was driving, but I was watching. It was pretty amazing. But so with that, one off season while I was a scout, there was this EMT training class that you could do for 4 months in the off season. And so I was like, hey, and they're going to pay you to do it. I was like, hey, great, I'm going to do it. It was fascinating. I loved every minute of it. It was interesting. You learned a lot about the body. And it was also, again, as you opened with, it was a way for me to kind of connect to the medical people in my family, my dad, my mom. My wife is a physician. And so I was able to connect in a little different way and just kind of understanding a little bit better what they do and being able to touch and feel what they do. So it was a pretty cool process. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Like you said, it runs in the family. So keeping the tradition going.
Yeah. I mean, it was funny. My daughter wanted to do that. Was a surprise. She had talked about wanting to be an engineer first because I didn't push baseball or sports on our kids. My wife didn't push it. She ran track at Stanford and was a 3-sport athlete in high school. And then being a physician, she didn't push medicine on anybody. But lo and behold, that's where our kids kind of gravitated to. And my daughter was like, she was trying to figure out where she wanted, what she wanted to do out of high school, right? Who in high school, as a high school senior, really knows what they want to do? She thought engineering. And then her boyfriend at the time made a great point. He was like, well, what are your videos about on your phone? Like, what are those all about? So she's like, well, let me look. So she's got like hand dissection videos, eye dissection videos, all these physiological type videos on her phone. And that's where it kind of clued in, like, oh, I really do like this stuff. So that's how she kind of roundabout way ended up being in that pre-med group. And hopefully someday she'll get to medical school.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, for you, I know you, like you said, you went on to Stanford, and I know you played multiple sports, and you were the quarterback, right? So one question that I thought of was, what's worse, getting sacked or some of the nagging foul tip type injuries you might get as a catcher?
That's a great question. They're both pretty bad. I remember trying to jump over the pile one time. Brad Muster was our running back, was our tailback during those days. And I think we were playing against University of Washington or somebody. And it was like my first year of starting, I think my sophomore year. And so I tried to go over the top. And there was a big, mass of humanity kind of wrangling around and wrestling around. And I swear I could feel my leg about to snap on my thigh. And it was like bending. It was this. I could feel it go like this. And I'm like, oh, man. So I walked back to the huddle. I'm just like, and somehow Brad Muster knew that that's what happened. And he was like, he used to call me Beej. BJ, no one ever called me Brian growing up. It was always BJ. So some people are like, Brian, who's that? Oh, you mean BJ? Oh, okay. But anyway, I go back to the huddle and Brad Muster's like, hey, Beej, call me Beej. He's like, hey, Beej. He used to talk like that. He's like, hey, Beej, next time go low and they can't get you. I was like, so that was, so next play I went low and we scored, and I went low every time after that. So, so that time, and then I blew out my shoulder. I got hit one time in Arizona State, probably one of my best games that I played. 350 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, over 60 yards. John Pinckney, I mentioned this story the other day. John Pinckney got mad at me because I didn't mention his name. But both touchdown passes at Arizona State were to John Pinckney, who's in Phoenix these days. So, yeah, and then all of a sudden we got 2-minute drill. I'm dropped back to pass. Jim Price, my tight end right there, he's covered. I'm about to get sacked, so I threw the ball at Jim's feet because we only had a few seconds left to play, and we were down by 4. Playing against Paul Justin, who was kind of the number one all-time quarterback in the NCAA history for yardage at that time. And so I got hit on my opposite side, my left side, got picked up. My shoulder hit first, then my weight, and then his weight on top of me, and my right shoulder just exploded. So it was a 5th-degree separation of my clavicle. Wow. So I got the clavicle split like this in the joint, and then it dislocated posteriorly this way. And so, but the key to the story is that because I played 3 sports in high school, played 2 sports in college, and everybody said, oh, you're going to get hurt. Oh, you're going to get hurt. I was the cocky, arrogant dummy that said, no, I'm not going to get hurt. I'm an invincible kid, And when we were at Arizona State, I rolled over at Sun Devil Stadium. I look up into the sky after my shoulder just exploded. And the first thought that came to my head was, what did I do to my baseball career? And that was it. So I became a baseball player after that. Too late.
Yeah, and now we get to talk about it, so it all works.
That's right. Yeah. It makes for a good story. That's
right. Well, it did make me wonder when it comes to baseball, once you get through college, what sticks with you more, and what is the story? Is it your MLB call-up story, or is it your actual debut for the first time?
Yeah. You know what sticks to me more than anything? Because I kind of remember the first day, because I made the team out of camp, so I remember more spring training where Mike Scioscia was the old guy, and there was another guy that's been an Oakland coach, but I don't want to call him out on the show. He was an asshole, honestly. And so we got Mike Scioscia that's got all these accolades, and he was great. And then we got this other dude that hadn't done shit and was an asshole to all of us. Social would take us out to lunch, talk to us, teach us stuff. This other dude was like trying to cut our legs out from under us. So that I remember more. The year before I got called up, I remember because I hit like 340 in the Pacific Coast League. I was number 2. I was number 1 most of the year, but ended up being number 2. And I didn't get called up for that year. I was pissed. And so I remember that crushed me because, you never know if you can get another opportunity. You're doing it. You're in the middle. You're playing great. Things are going great. Of course, I'm going to get a September call-up, and I didn't, and it broke my heart. But I made the team out of spring training the next year, so it was a little anticlimactic because I was, even though I do remember the first things, those were the things that stuck out to me more.
And being a catcher, it made me wonder, like, you're an easy guy to talk to, so were you one of the guys that, like, says hello to the hitters when they come up? And if so, is it truly just a friendly thing, or can you try and distract guys when they're coming up?
Yeah, well, let's see. Well, the last part first. If you're somebody that does it on purpose to try, because there were some guys that did that. That's a no-no. That's unprofessional. Okay. And somebody's going to hurt you if you do that. Some of the guys that did that were kind of bigger, so they get around, to do it. But that just wasn't for me. I'm gonna beat you. When I get on the field with you, I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna look you in the eye. I'm gonna be nice and calm, and I'm gonna kick your ass on the baseball field. Right? That's how I was. So I didn't need the gimmicks. Right? So I would just say hello to people, just being courteous and cordial. The people ask that all the time. Weren't you talking stuff? Well, yeah, talking stuff is one thing. But trying to, in baseball, it's just different. It's a different dynamic. Like basketball, I talk a whole lot more stuff in basketball than I ever did in football or baseball. Football, you can't talk a whole lot of stuff as a quarterback because you're too busy. I'm thinking about what everybody else's job is doing, and I got to do my job, and I got to read their defense, and I got to worry about substitutions coming in and what the scoreboard says and how much time we got left, and if the wind's blowing, all these things I'm worried about. The last thing I'm thinking about is talking stuff. But basketball, I used to love talk stuff. But baseball, it was just different. Now my conversations in baseball would be with the umpire, because that is where politics comes into play. To where you gotta form a relationship, even if you don't like the guy. You gotta form a relationship because that's the way you get pitches for your pitcher, and that's where you get the borderline stuff. You get now. Don't get me started nowadays. The analytics cult that we got working now. I love analytics. It's great for a lot of things, but you can't not use baseball people and the baseball experience and baseball strategy.
You need balance, right?
Exactly right. You got to have balance in 2024. Unfortunately, we don't have that in baseball right now, which is a whole different subject. But that's the part where all these catchers are moving the glove everywhere, and it looks awful, and they're not blocking. They got this funky. They're trying to get so low, and they're set up as a catcher in baseball. It's stupid. It's stupid that you can't block a ball in the dirt, because there's so many times you save a run for your pitcher and save his ERA by blocking balls in the dirt when he's at third base. Yeah, but also the other bases too, so they don't move up a base. Yeah. Nowadays, baseball, they don't care how the guy gets to third. They're going to just do whatever. And be so focused on maybe stealing a one strike from the umpire. It's so asinine. When I was playing, the umpires deserve some criticism here, along with the catching. When I was playing, if you move the glove too much, the umpire is in your ear and say, "Listen, son, if you move that glove again, I'm going to call it a ball, no matter where it is. It could be right down the middle, but if you move that glove, I'm calling it a ball." And if I was to ask why, it said, because if you're moving the glove, you think it's a ball. So if you're moving the glove crazy, you're telling me with your actions that you think it's a ball, so you're going to try to make it look like a strike. So that's the reasoning. So if the umpires would just say that, and now I got to pause there, the umpires are not being supported at all by Major League Baseball, and that's unfair. So they can't, it doesn't matter if they say it or not. The analytics cult is not allowing them to have a voice. So it's so disrespectful to the umpires as a profession, what catchers are doing now, and therefore teams are doing right now. It's sickening to watch. When we played, we'd argue with the umpires, but we respected them for the balls and strikes that they needed to call, and I wish that would come back.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that with all that analytics too and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
but when you're talking about blocking balls, it's hard not to think of when you came up with the Padres.
Mhm.
Brad Osmus, right? He's one of the best catchers to probably ever do it, at least in recent years.
Absolutely.
Did he kind of teach you a little bit or kind of bring you under his wing? Or
No, we came up at the same time. So we came
oh,
up
okay.
through the system together. We got drafted with the Yankees together. And
Mm,
so we knew each other from there. And then we both got brought over to San Diego eventually. And we played together in the big leagues for 3 years. So Brad and I go way, way back. And yeah, I agree. Defensively, Brad was one of the best catch and throw block guys that we've seen, like ever. He was that good. And so no, we always competed against each other. I was a little different because I played 7 different positions in college. So I
mm,
played everywhere but second base and catcher, oddly enough,
uh,
in college. But I got it out of my system because I played catcher in high school. But I wasn't blocking stuff in high school because we had a short backstop, so I didn't really have to. I was just trying to catch it and throw it. And when you block it, man, that stuff hurts. I didn't want to do that in high school. So when we got to college, I really didn't love catching, but I knew it was my best position. So I went and played other positions and found out that, I'm not that good out here in these other positions. I'm better at catching, but also I'm bored to death in these other positions when I'm not calling pitches and
mm,
doing everything. So it was good for me to get that out of my system in college and then play catcher as a professional. But Brad and I came up together in the minor leagues. He was always a rung ahead of me because I had to relearn how to catch. Actually, we learned how to catch the first time
mm,
in the minor leagues. We learned from Mark Hill, who was a catcher for the Giants way back when.
okay.
His nickname was Booter, Booter. He was a great teacher for us as catchers. So he taught us a lot of great things. But Brad was shorter, so it was easier for him to get down quicker to block and do all that, and
Mm,
much more compact and throw. So he was a great athlete, could really do all those. But it took me a little more time to get better at that. But so I definitely learned from watching him and competing against him. But his frame just made for a different makeup than a different dynamic as far as executing what we wanted to do than mine was. So yeah, so we learned from each other, I think, but it wasn't by talking about
mm.
it. We were
Well, no,
competing. We were trying to kick each other's butt.
well, another guy on that team, Oakland guy, right? Bip Roberts. That's kind of cool that he was on
Yeah,
that team. Yeah.
the Bipster. Yeah, Bip was amazing. He was the leader of our team when I was
Mm,
there in San Diego. We were ascending, right? And when I first got up there as a rookie, we were part of the first fire sale that was going down. Joe McIlvain was our general manager, and so he got rid of Freddie McGriff. He got rid of Gary
mm,
Sheffield. He got rid of Andy Bennis. He got rid of all of our best players because the ownership, the Kroc family, I think it was the Kroc family at that point. They said, "Hey, we got to lower yeah, that's right. We got to get rid of all these assets because we want to sell the team."
mm,
So he got rid of all these guys, and that was the first modern day fire sale. And so for the fans weren't happy about it, but I was in the minor leagues coming up, so it was perfect timing for me. I was with the New York Yankees, and we were awful. The Yankees were awful when I was there in the major leagues, but our minor leagues were loaded. We were loaded. We had talent everywhere. So I went in the Rule 5 draft to the San Diego Padres that didn't have a whole lot of catching.
mm.
So I was able to kind of, compete and win a job to begin with, and then was able to really get a chance to get into the big leagues. So I was grateful for that. But yeah, it was Brad and I. I still to this day pull for him, and I think he does a really good job as a manager. And he's had a couple opportunities. He's been in the front office for a while, and his wife Liz and his 3 daughters. It has been fun to be connected with them for so many years.
Well, moving on to your time with the Giants here, I have a question from an avid listener of the show, and he says he wants to know how in the hell were you able to handle his nasty slider, and it's signed Richie Rod.
Richie Rodriguez. Yeah, absolutely. That's how you and I first met, I believe, is through Richie. But
Yeah.
Richie was amazing. We had the best bullpen, I think, in baseball that year, 1997. Richie came out of the pen with a nasty slider, as he said. It was very difficult to handle. But we had a great group of guys in the 1997 National League West Division championship team. We had Darrell Hamilton. We had Sean Estes in our starting 5. We had so many good players. Barry was there, of course, and Glenn Allen Hill and Billy Miller and Richie Aurelia. JT Snow at first, and so just a whole bunch of great guys. And then we made a big trade at the trade deadline to get in to bring in some pitching and other guys. So we benefited a great deal. I had a great time that 1997 and 1998 thing. I think Richie was still with us for a little while in '98. But yeah, Richie Rodriguez, a legend all the way.
Yeah, it's how you remember then, because he took me to the '97 reunion.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how we met. That was a cool experience. So, are those obviously important for you to attend? Are they kind of like high school reunions, or I imagine that may, the last time you saw some of those guys, you might have been players.
Yeah, it's interesting. The high school reunions are kind of. I don't get excited about those anymore because we're all connected on Facebook, and so the people that you want to connect with, you get a chance to do that on Facebook, and you don't have time to spend with everybody, but you get enough just to see what their kids look like, see what they're doing, connect every once in a while. So that's fun. But baseball, with the teams that we played on, is not quite the same thing. We definitely, come from different areas and different backgrounds, and so it just doesn't seem to be quite the same type of fit because we were older, right? We're older, early 20s, whereas my Facebook folks are kind of college and high school and grammar school. So. Baseball's kind of different. You're kind of older when you're playing professionally. Guys are married and got kids, so we don't get to build the relationships as much, especially in the big leagues. The big leagues, you often had family at that point. So guys, we're on the road quite a bit. Baseball is awful as far as keeping a family together and keeping a marriage together. So guys spend all their time that they can when they're at home with their family. So you don't get to spend quality time with folks. So the minor leagues is where you really are able to bond. Because none of you are making any money. You're traveling on buses for 10, 12 hours at a time. And so that's where the bonding. So the guys that I'm closest with are those from my it was a A ball in Greensboro, North Carolina. We were in last place. We had 5 guys go to the big leagues from that team. But we had Brian Butterfield was our manager. And so he would go on to be a third base coach forever for Boston and Toronto and bunch of other teams too, right? And the Angels too, yeah. So we just had a great time. We were learning how to play professional baseball, right? It's different than playing every day, 6 days a week, 144 games in 160 days is a lot different in the heat of the South than it is playing, 40 games in college or, less than that in high school. So yeah, those minor leagues teams for me were the ones where you really had a chance to build relationships, and I keep in touch with all those guys.
Well, I'm going to get Ned Coletti on the show sometime next month. So I called him the other day, and I said, hey, I'm having Brian Johnson on in a few days. And he got all excited, and he said, well, make sure you tell him that in my 40 years of baseball, that home run against the Dodgers was the best regular season way to ever end. That's like his favorite memory of a regular season ending. So had to pass.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Ned was great.
And you're still in the highlight reels, we still show that. So, I mean, I know you've had a great career, but is that your favorite memory, or I imagine it's up there?
Oh, yeah, it was my hometown kid, important game. Yeah, I mean, you kind of dream about that. So that was definitely the best point of my career. There's a lot of good ones that I do remember as well, but that was the pinnacle, and I really am blessed to be a part of it. I don't have any perp walks, so there's no video out there, doing that. There is a video out there of Tony Pena getting me, though, when he did intentional walk, and then he hops back around and gets the call for strike 3 to end the game. So I'm a little bitter at Tony still, but Tony was like my idol growing up, so I was a little bitter at him when it happened. And now every year when people bring it up, I think there's an anniversary for that too. I still get a little bit of Tony Pena for that too.
Well, it's kind of ironic that your last year in the big leagues, or you kind of wrap your career up with the Dodgers, right? So it's kind of ironic how that happened in 2001. Yeah,
it is a little ironic. I had a great time down there. They treated me well, but I kind of hurt my knee one more time, so that was kind of the last. I was catching a bullpen for Kevin Brown and day game at Dodger Stadium, and we were in the bullpen, and I had a great. My knee. I'd been playing on one leg for the last 2 years and kind of tricking them a little bit, and it's just an awful experience to slide down the pole of injury and have to work your way back up, work your way down, back up, because it's a very slippery slope when you get hurt. And so I wanted to just play one more game. My son had just been born. I promised my wife I was done. But I was like, I just need to end on a decent note. And so I went back. I felt like I played well enough to make the Dodgers out of spring training. But there's some, anyway, didn't make it out of spring training. But then I went down to AAA and played really well, made the All-Star team, played well, got called up in May. And so I didn't get a chance to play when they called me up because they would have had to pay me a lot more money because I was older. But that's okay. And I had a really good time playing for them with the Dodgers. But then on that bullpen, I felt something tweak in my knee, and I knew I had clipped off another piece of cartilage from my knee, which I had done before. And so I was like, okay, I'm done. And so I walked slowly back to the clubhouse, told our trainer, Stan Johnson, I'm done. I'm going home tomorrow. And he's like, no, we'll get with the doctor. We'll inject you. We'll do this. We'll do that. We'll get you, at least you want to definitely go to San Francisco, don't you? That's the next trip we take. I was like, no, I don't want to go up there like that. I don't want to go up there like this, being hurt and not being able to play. I'm ready. I'm done. I'm going home. And so he criticized. I heard later. Dusty Baker told me later that he asked them, the trainer, what happened, where I was. He's like, oh, he quit, and he was kind of a criticism of me. I was like, well, I said, Baker, he's right. I was done. I knew I was ready to go, and so there's no use doing any more. I didn't want any more shots. I didn't want any more surgeries. Or I'd have to do a surgery eventually anyway. But I said he was accurate. I did quit. I knew the time was up. I knew it was time for me to go. So I was honest about it, and I walked away on my terms when I wanted to, and I've never looked back. And I've always appreciated that moment.
How's the knee now? Are you good? Is it arthritic, or are you okay?
Yeah, it's arthritic quite a bit. It's okay. I'm able to walk my dog, so that's important. Good. But it's a challenge you just got to maintain it. It's hard, especially doing business stuff. You're sitting a lot and doing virtual stuff a lot. So it's hard to not have it get in the way. So I have to have a knee replacement at some point. Hopefully I'm not quite there yet, but a lot of icing, a lot of maintenance. Got to do my squats and get in the weight room quite a bit to kind of manage it. But hey, it was well worth it. I got a lot of wear and tear. I got a lot of good years in sports with my body. So for the next 30 years, I got to take care of and baby it a little bit. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Well, you had spoken about kind of like being in a rhythm as a catcher. So does catching someone like Kirk Reeder or Woody, as you know, is a fast worker. So does that kind of help everyone on the field, I imagine, when he works fast and has good luck?
Woody was great. Yeah, he definitely worked fast. And we worked so well together. We really had a good time together because we vibed well. I felt like I read him well. I felt like because we had spent so much time together, I had a good feel as to how he wanted to be guided through a game. And I think he trusts me enough to call a game, right? Because that allows him to just focus on executing the pitch. And so he had a great changeup that he could throw to both sides of the plate. He could throw his breaking ball to either side of the plate, fastball to both sides of the plate, sinking fastball both sides of the plate. So that's a lot of weapons for me to get creative with as a catcher. So we really worked well together. Had a blast. So his working fast was effective. So it makes the hitters react to him versus the other way around. Versus them, it's like a fast break point versus a setting up your half court offense. If fast break, if you can get there and have them on their heels and having them adjust to you coming and being aggressive, same way in baseball. The faster you work, the better it can be for your strategy overall.
Gotcha. And one of my final questions here, I remember being at the 97 team reunion. Me and Rich were sitting there watching the game, and Jim Poole was right next to us.
Yeah.
I think he was doing some high school coaching maybe. And unfortunately, as you know, he passed recently. So I was just wondering if you had any good memories of your old teammate.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, Jim Poole was great. He did a lot of work with the union. He's always been a financial guy and always been working in finances in some way, even while he was coaching or even while he was playing. He was part of the union's finance team while we were playing. So he's always involved in that, part of the Alumni Association for Major League Baseball players. So he was great. He served a lot for us as players and really grateful for that. He was always dependable coming out of the pen as a reliever, and with a great sinker slider guy, just like Richie. And so, yeah, it was a sad day to lose him, and I hope his family is doing well. But I always keep him near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Jim Poole. And Brian, it's been great to have you on the show to reflect on your life, your career, and to go from meeting you at the reunion to here. It's kind of cool. So full circle, you know.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Great to be on. I appreciate the conscientious questions. That always makes for a good interview. When the questions are boring, it's not so much fun. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I wish you the very best.